Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our show brought to you by Tennova Healthcare. And that's Jefferson Memorial Hospital, La Follette Medical Center, Lakeway Regional Hospital, Newport Medical Center, North Knoxville Medical Center, Physicians Regional Medical Center, Tennova Healthcare in Cleveland, and Turkey Creek Medical Center. In East Tennessee, folks, Tennova is always nearby. They are who I and my family trust. Tennova.com to learn more. Tennova Healthcare. I want to welcome in Bob Hodge to join us here to talk a little football. I also want to bring up a couple of things that I forgot in the first segment, and our director, Cruz, is going to hate me for this. Send us your questions right now for Twitter, or send them on Twitter, and we will answer them in our overtime segment. Mark will be with us. A bunch of these guys will be with us. So football, basketball, any questions you want to send us, we will tackle those in our overtime segment later this afternoon. And then also wanted to remind you of what's coming up in the weeks ahead in terms of holiday schedule. Next week is our Christmas episode. We always have a little fun with that one. The 27th, as you see there, will be our Outback Bowl preview. Then we'll do our Outback Bowl recap on the 3rd, and then Vol Hoops and football recruiting starting January 10th. But next week, join us for the always fun and sometimes mean Christmas special. we wrap really mean questions in funny Christmas holiday cheer. So join us next week and bring your sense of humor. The bowl process played out as predicted. Tennessee and Northwestern in the Outback Bowl. Talking about a 10-2 football team. I think we've got Northwestern's record up here at some point. I've already thrown Cruz Cox, so there we go. That's what Northwestern did this year. Beat Stanford, first game of the year. Beat Duke. Had 2 games where they just didn't show up, at Michigan and Iowa. But they're a 10-2 football team, ranked 13th in the nation. A lot of folks think this is just going to be a repeat of last year's Iowa game. You tell me, is this going to be another example of SEC speed versus Big Ten lack thereof?
I'm going to go with no. I think if you look at this game, if you go and you look what Northwestern's done this season, you see a route for Tennessee to have a big win. Mm-hmm. But you also see that Northwestern is the 11th ranked defense in the country. And I think if you look at Tennessee, when your offense hadn't been on, when your quarterback hadn't been on, sometimes their offense can be a little bit sputtery. So, yeah, is there a way that you can look at it and say that Tennessee can beat Northwestern by 20 points? Sure there is. But there's also a way that you see this is going to be a close game. Plus, you don't have the Iowa factor to me. Iowa, as we've talked about many times, didn't want to be in that bowl game last year with Tennessee. They were disappointed. Northwestern's going for a school record for wins in one season. So they've got motivation.
I think that's a huge part of it. We look at these bowls and we predict the bowls. I would say 75% of bowl games comes down to which team wants it more. And, we say that during the regular season. I think it's a cliche. But at these bowl games, like Oklahoma-Clemson last year, Oklahoma didn't show up. They didn't care. Clemson wanted it, destroyed them. Tennessee-Iowa. Tennessee was hungry for that game. I wonder, Northwestern has gotten some guff from Tennessee fans on Twitter. I think that there were a couple I saw last week that were overjoyed that they had immediately, after the bowl was announced, they'd immediately gotten blocked by Pat Fitzgerald, the coach at Northwestern. They'd sent him so many ugly tweets that he blocked them, and they were proud of that. That really makes Tennessee look good. Yeah. I think Northwestern's going to come in with a bigger chip on their shoulder. I don't know if that – I think Tennessee can have a big win, or you beat number 13 team in the country. That's a great stepping stone, but I think Northwestern's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder. The question to me is, does Tennessee come in cocky as some of the folks are, some of the fans are?
I think Tennessee will come in focused like it was a year ago. But I'm with Bob. Northwestern's going for an 11th win. They've never done that before. As I remember last year, I think Iowa came in disappointed because they didn't have a good finish to the season. Well, Northwestern had 2 bad games, and then they won their last 5. They beat Stanford. If you're good enough to beat Stanford, you're good enough to beat Tennessee. Now, I understand that it was an early game for Stanford and all that, and it was the beginning of the year. But I think Northwestern's a team that they've got pretty good fight about them. I don't think they'll come in overlooking it and just going through the motions like Iowa did. So yeah. I think this is going to be a challenge for Tennessee.
I think Tennessee's team needs to be taking it seriously. But I will say this: if you said one team was going to blow out the other one, you're going to go Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It's more likely to blow out North. If there's going to be a blowout, it'll be on Tennessee. But I do wonder about Northwestern's speed.
Well, they're offensively challenged.
Yeah, they're not very good
I mean, they're
offensively
not.
at all.
Their offense
At
is
all.
not
And
really good.
they really struggled scoring touchdowns in the red zone. One thing I look at is Tennessee's weakness, if I'm going to point to one at times, I think has been in the secondary. I don't think Northwestern is going to be able to take advantage of that.
No.
But you're talking about the motivation. As an 8-point underdog, when you're ranked 12th or 13th in the country and you're either playing an unranked team or maybe 23rd, I don't put a whole lot of stock in that, but I think it really gets their attention that it's like us against the world. And a defensive-minded team, I like them bringing it, but I think it's going to be like a home game for Tennessee.
I agree with
Las
that.
Vegas. Yeah, I think Northwestern would be motivated. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I don't see this being a blowout. And I think Bob's right too. Their team is a little bit like, and don't take this too literally, like Vanderbilt and Missouri.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
they're not a real good offensive team, but they're pretty sound on defense. But I just think they're better than either Missouri or Vanderbilt in both those areas.
And I think they're better at. They have a good running game.
Yeah, they got
And
a
I
guy
think
named
that
Jackson.
separates them
Yeah.
from Missouri and Vanderbilt.
And remember last year how much problems Iowa was having about who was going to be the quarterback?
Yeah.
That's like the game's getting ready to start and they still didn't know for sure who was going to be the starting quarterback. You don't have that. with this
I just
team.
look at. Go ahead, Mike. You gonna say something?
No.
Oh, okay. You just moved your hands. I noticed. I thought you were asking for time. I will say this: a 10-2 team. I mean, we can discuss whether or not that's a legit 10-2 or not, but 10 wins.
It's 10-2.
10-2 is 10-2. I mean, you win 10 out of 12 games in any conference. I think you've done some heavy lifting there. But I went over to friend Brent Hubb's VolQuest site. A little free plug for Brent. Went over to their website, the message board. They have a thread there that is just based on score predictions from fans. All right. I took out two that were a little bizarre. One was 6-3 Tennessee. The other one was 73-6. I took those out. The other 68 picks as of last night, only 10 had it within 10 points. The other 58 had it plus 10. The average score: Tennessee 37, Northwestern 17, against the 10-2 football team. I can see where Tennessee, if it's going to be a blowout, it's going to go Tennessee's way. But I don't know if I'd pick a 20-point win and just expect a cakewalk over a team that's ranked 13th and has 10 wins on the season.
I mentioned that that Northwestern's a pretty good running game, and in researching their season, there were a couple of games where they had a lead to protect and just ran out the clock 4 or 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever. So I don't think you want to be behind in the fourth quarter.
It's going to be an interesting game. The problem, though, and it's always the way with these academic schools when you play them, for the fan base, there's really nothing to gain. Everybody thinks you're going to crush them. If you lose, well, you should have crushed them. If you win, you should have crushed them. I mean, it's a no-win game when you play a Duke or Northwestern. Whether that's fair or not, I think among the fans, that's the way it kind of works.
But I think the good part of that is they are at least ranked 12th. So you are playing a team that's higher
Right.
ranked.
I think that's going to mean more outside of the Knoxville zone.
I think that
it'll
helps.
help you in the rankings.
Oh, yes, I
if
agree.
you beat them.
And I think it
That's
helps
what I'm
Butch
s-
Jones motivate the team in the weeks leading up to that.
I agree. That's nobody here locally is voting in the polls is what I'm getting at. I think from a fan's perspective, it's a yawn. You'd much rather play a Michigan or a named school than a Northwestern. I don't think that helps you much in terms of fan interest. But in terms of the polls, absolutely. You go beat a 10-win team, you're going to jump in the polls. All right, when we come back, we're going to hand out some honors for Team 119. Who was the team MVP, most outstanding on offense, most outstanding on defense, most improved? Come on back and find out on the Sports Source.